You have been blaming Dangote for the fuel price. You have been on social media saying he is a monopoly, saying he is greedy, saying the refinery is a scam. But nobody has been asking the right question. Why is the Dangote refinery buying crude oil from America when Nigeria is sitting on some of the largest oil reserves on this planet? And why, in the same month that African countries are lining up at Dangote's door begging for fuel, is the United States government opening a formal trade investigation against Nigeria? That is the question we are answering today. And by the time we are done, you will understand that what you are seeing at the fuel pump is not the story. The story is happening behind closed doors. Part 1. What Nigeria tried to do. In October 2024, Nigeria made a quiet but radical decision. They launched what is called a naira for crude arrangement. In plain language, Nigerian refineries, including Dangote, would be allowed to buy Nigerian crude oil in naira, not in dollars, in naira. Think about what that means. Nigeria produces over 1.5 million barrels of crude oil every single day. For decades, Nigeria has had to use dollars to participate in the global oil trade because the international oil market runs on the American dollar. This policy was an attempt to break that cycle, to say, we will use our own currency to refine our own oil for our own people. That is not just a financial decision. That is a sovereignty decision. And sovereignty, in today's world, has consequences. Part 2, then the squeeze began. Here is where you need to pay close attention, because what happened next was not loud. It was not announced. It was quiet, bureaucratic, and almost invisible. Unless you know what you are looking at, Dangote needed 15 crude oil cargoes for September 2024 alone. An NPC, Nigeria's own state oil company, allocated them 6 out of 15. Dangote appealed to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. They could not secure the rest. This was not a one-time incident. Between January and August 2025, Nigerian refineries collectively requested 123 million barrels of domestic crude. They received 67 million, barely half. Now I want you to stop and sit with a very simple question. Nigeria is an oil-producing nation. Why is its own refinery being starved of its own crude? Where is the oil going? Where the oil is actually going? Here is the answer. NNPC is taking Nigerian crude and selling it on the international market in dollars, and a significant portion of those dollars are going directly to service Nigeria's foreign debt, loans owed to the World Bank, the IMF, and international creditors. So Tinubu stands up and says, Nigeria's revenue is increasing. Our foreign exchange earnings are up, and technically, the numbers are real. Dollar revenue is up. But what actually happened? Nigeria sold its own crude, denied it to its own refinery, collected dollars, and sent those dollars straight back out to foreign institutions as debt repayment. The crude left Nigeria. The dollars came in. The dollars went straight back out. And Dangote, with a 20 billion refinery sitting on Nigerian soil, had to go and buy American crude in the same dollars that Nigeria just sent away. This is not revenue. This is a treadmill. The IMF is not celebrating Nigeria because Nigeria is prospering. They are celebrating because Nigeria is paying. A debtor who pays is a good debtor. A refinery that breaks dollar dependency is a problem. Those two things are in direct conflict. And right now, the creditors are winning. Part 4. The American crude nobody is talking about. Now let me give you the numbers that should be on the front page of every Nigerian newspaper. In 2024, the United States exported 15 million barrels of crude oil to Nigeria. By 2025, the same year Dangote was being denied domestic supply, that number jumped to 41 million barrels, a 161% increase. By July 2025, 60% of the Dangote refinery's feedstock was coming from American crude. As of March 2026, right now, Nigerian crude still accounts for only 30 to 35% of what goes into that refinery. The rest is imported, dollar-denominated. The refinery that was built to free Nigeria from dollar dependency is running, mostly on American oil, purchased in dollars. And the Dangote Group has said it openly. They have come out publicly and stated, we are buying in dollars. They said it. It is public record, and most Nigerians did not hear it. Part 5. The lawsuit nobody explained. Aliko Dangote saw what was happening. He filed a N100 billion lawsuit against NNPC and oil marketing companies. He accused them directly of failing their statutory duty to prioritize domestic refining. He went to court. He was making progress. Then on July 28, 2025, the lawsuit was quietly withdrawn. No press conference, no public statement, no confirmed settlement, just silence. I am not going to tell you what happened in that room. I was not there. Neither were you. But I want you to reason through this with me, because there are only a few plausible explanations. Scenario 1. Dangote has a $20 billion refinery sitting on Nigerian soil. That refinery needs Nigerian operating licenses, Nigerian regulatory approvals, Nigerian crude allocation, Nigerian port access. The government does not need to make a direct threat. They just need him to understand what non-cooperation looks like going forward. A lawsuit that embarrasses NNPC publicly, and by extension the Tinubu administration, is non-cooperation. The withdrawal may have been the price of continued access. Scenario 2. Behind closed doors, a deal was offered. More crude allocation, in exchange for dropping the public legal battle. If that conversation happened, Dangote had to calculate, do I win in court and lose my crude supply permanently? Or do I drop the case and keep the refinery running? A man with $20 billion on the line will almost always choose to keep the refinery running. Scenario 3. Dangote's lawyers told him privately that he could not win. Not because he was wrong, but because the system that would judge him is the same system he is fighting. I am not accusing anyone. I am asking you to look at these 3 scenarios and tell me which one sounds like a free and sovereign country, protecting its own national interest. Part 6. The Strait of Hormuz changes everything. Now we arrive at 2026, and the game has just changed completely. On February 28, 2026, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil supply passes every single day. Crude prices surged past $100 a barrel. Global oil markets went into crisis. Countries that depended on Middle Eastern fuel suddenly had nowhere to turn. And they turned to Nigeria. South Africa, Ghana, and Kenya have all formally requested fuel supplies from the Dangote refinery. The International Energy Agency confirmed that 600,000 barrels a day of oil products that normally flow to Africa from the Middle East are now at risk. Think about what this means. The Dangote refinery, the one that was being starved of crude, the one whose lawsuit was quietly dropped, the one that was forced to buy American oil in dollars, has just become the most strategically important energy asset on the entire African continent. Overnight, Nigeria did not plan this. Nigeria did not campaign for this. The world simply ran out of options, and the only refinery that could supply Africa was sitting in Lagos. Part 7, and then Washington moved. Now watch the timing very carefully. 1 month before the Strait of Hormuz closed, February 2026, a United States Congress report on Nigeria recommended pressuring Nigeria by restricting its exports to African neighbors, Ghana, South Africa, Ivory Coast, Senegal. The report was framed around religion and security concerns, but functionally, it was targeting Nigeria's intra-African trade relationships. Then on March 16, 2026, 5 days ago, the United States launched a Section 301 trade investigation against 60 economies. Nigeria was on the list. A Section 301 investigation is the legal instrument the United States uses before imposing trade sanctions. They are not sanctioning Nigeria today. They are building the paperwork. And at the same time, AGOA, the trade program that gave African nations duty-free access to U.S. markets for 25 years, expired in September 2025. Congress did not renew it. The carrot is gone. The stick is being prepared. Part 8. The system explained. Let me now explain why this is bigger than Nigeria. The American dollar is the world's reserve currency. Almost every country on earth needs dollars to trade internationally, to buy oil, medicine, food, technology. The system that enforces this is called SWIFT, the global banking network that connects every major financial institution on earth. If a country steps too far outside the dollar system, the United States can cut its banks off from SWIFT. The currency collapses. Imports stop. The economy suffocates. We are watching this happen to Cuba in real time. It is not that Cuba has no oil. It is that Cuba cannot use the global financial system to buy it from anyone else. Nigeria, by attempting to trade its own oil in its own currency, was not just making a financial decision. It was attempting to step outside the permission system that keeps most of the world dependent and compliant. And the response was not military. It was structural, quiet, bureaucratic. Starve the refinery of crude. Force it back onto dollar-denominated imports. Make the Independence Project depend on the very thing it was trying to escape. When that did not fully work, and the Strait of Hormuz made Nigeria suddenly indispensable to the entire continent, the next tools came out. Trade investigations, congressional reports, the quiet dismantling of African trade access. No guns needed. Not yet. Most Nigerians are watching the fuel pump price. They are angry about the number on the screen. They are blaming one man. But the battle is not at the pump. The battle was fought in allocation meetings, in regulatory offices, in courtrooms where cases are filed and then silently withdrawn, in congressional reports written in Washington about who Nigeria is allowed to trade with, in trade investigations launched. The same week African nations came knocking on Lagos's door. Nigeria produces over 1.5 million barrels of oil every single day. Its own refinery is running on 30% Nigerian crude. Its own state oil company is selling that crude for dollars and sending those dollars to foreign creditors. The man who tried to fight it in court went quiet on July 28, 2025. And the moment Nigeria became Africa's only viable fuel source, Washington opened a file. So I leave you with the questions that every Nigerian deserves to be asking. If we have the oil, why is the refinery buying from America? If the naira for crude policy exists, why is Dangote paying in dollars? If the lawsuit was legitimate, why was it withdrawn without explanation? If Nigeria's revenue is increasing, why are Nigerians getting poorer? And if we are just a developing country with no strategic importance, why is Washington watching us this closely? Connect the dots